We're going to let a few more people file in here. There's still people joining, so make yourselves comfortable. I saw somebody say they were only going to be here for an hour. That's okay. We're going to send out the recording afterwards. You might miss out on the giveaways at the end, but there's still discounts that we're going to send out afterwards as well. So yeah,
I can make this session really simple. You want to know how?
How's that?
We don't need to do it. Just buy it and be done with it, because if you don't,
you're missing out.
Yeah,
you're missing out.
We don't need to do this. Just go buy it.
There's a familiar face in the chat here. Chris from Handy Amps.
Handy Amps.
Yeah,
he makes a great point. I mean, yeah, I'm the best customer because I know exactly what I want. That's why I don't need a whole product market research team. I know what's missing. I know what I want to hear. So
yeah,
I think that's an advantage we have as a company as well. Same with Handy Amps.
Yeah, if anybody's not familiar with Handy Amps, they make the oven and some other really high-end boutique hardware, and have some plugins out through Plugin Alliance and things as well. So go check out Chris's work. He's a mad scientist as well. We're gonna do a couple more minutes. I'm gonna go shut my door really quick.
Cool.
And then I think we're going to be ready to jump in the next 2 or 3. We still have people joining, though, so we'll just let people kind of file in. I'll be right back.
And for other people that are here already that may not know this, Andrew has a whole list of plugins he's developing right now that I've seen some very early alphas of that will ultimately get fully developed and released to the world. And from what I've already heard, looks like we'll be doing 7 more of these in the next.
Yes, we will. It's funny, the EQs. I did a live stream the other day, like me mastering 11 songs, and at the end of that, people were like, "I want those EQs." So I think that's probably going to be our next release. There's plenty of other things we could do, but that was pretty validating. So yeah, we'll be on here talking about the EQs, I'm pretty sure.
And then for everyone here that doesn't already know this, doing this is my idea, and I am not getting paid to be here.
Yes, let's make that clear.
So this is not a promotional event for Naturl Audio. It's something I wanted to do because it's that good. Now, if I were like most people, I would hide it and keep it for myself. But it's that good. Honest to God, it's been on every single mix since I had the very first version of it, and that's been quite a while.
I will say, Craig, you probably shouldn't have had it back then.
Well,
but you did.
Well, it just goes to show you that the plugin that I have been using on my mix bus for I don't know how many years has been replaced.
Yeah,
flat out replaced, much to their dismay.
Well,
let me jump into this real quick. While I think we're officially about to get started. Anyway,
we are officially about to get started.
Yeah. I want to say something real quick about the transparency of this plugin, because I know Andrew has probably fielded a number of questions like, it's so transparent. What if I wanted to blah, 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 and do this? It's so transparent. And I have a very simple answer for that question. The answer to that question is that character isn't really necessary to put across the entire mix bus for most genres of music, unless you're purposely going for something extremely grungy or extremely whatever. Character is built upon applying it to very particular elements within the mix that deserve the character. That way, it doesn't actually need to be part of your mix bus. It's happening on the important elements within the mix and in ratios compared to the entire mix that makes sense. Which is why I frankly also don't necessarily believe in doing food group mix buses where you're processing the crap out of these food groups. I don't do that. And everybody goes, well, that's how you mix. And I would say, no, that's not how you mix. It was never a thing until a number of years ago. every mix of every major thing that you've ever heard didn't do that. And I don't do that now. I don't process. Let's talk about drums real quick.
And then we'll start.
And then with a kick drum, you got cymbals. So we're going to compress that all the same amount, or limit that all the same amount, or EQ that all the same amount. No, we may want to in parallel process something like that. But in that case, in parallel, you can decide that I don't want the cymbals crashed to shit, so to speak. Limited to the degree that cymbals don't make sense anymore. So same concept with character on the mix bus. I apply that to the elements it's needed because this is so transparent. It's easily the best limiter I have ever heard, and not by a little, by far. Okay, I've said my piece there.
Andrew, you can chop that up.
Yeah, and I'll send you the check later.
Yeah. Also, we were talking about T-shirt ideas for Craig earlier, and I now have it. Food groups don't exist.
Yeah,
just generic kind of like Bauer logo. So we'll make that up.
In my life, the sweets food group still exists just fine.
Yeah.
I think we can kick this off. We're about 10 minutes in. I think, we're kind of leveling off in terms of people joining. So welcome everybody. This is technically, officially the first in a kind of an initiative that Sessionwire is putting together called Sessionwire Presents. We've partnered with Naturl Audio to put this on. So we are pleased to welcome you to Sessionwire Presents Naturl Audio's AL-1. Very thrilled to have Andrew from Naturl Audio here, and Craig as well. For many of you who have seen these types of events before that we've facilitated, Craig's been doing these with us for a while. And I think we don't really need to speak about why. We all know why Craig does these, and the quality of his work kind of speaks for itself. So thrilled to have him here again as well. If you're new to Sessionwire, have a look around. Hopefully you're listening on your speakers, your monitors, or headphones in your space on a machine like a computer. If you're listening on a phone, your experience will be a little bit different, but you'll still be able to hear everything okay. Some of the subtleties of what's going to be demonstrated today may not be apparent on a device. So you can watch the stream later. We're going to be reposting it in probably a couple of places where you can rewatch it. So have a look around down at the bottom. If you're new to Sessionwire, again, there are some buttons down there. One of them is for a talkback stream. You have a little drop down. You can set an input and an output for your talkback stream. Obviously, input doesn't matter because everybody that's watching is invisible. There's a separate HQ audio stream you can set an output for. Make sure that that is set to a device that you'll hear audio from. And that's how we're going to be demonstrating AL1 today. And again, while we're doing these things, throw questions in the chat. I'll be watching it the whole time. We'll bring up questions at appropriate moments. We'll try to keep this whole thing PG if we can in the chat. I really don't want to have to kick anybody out. And so far, over the, dozens of these that we've done, I haven't had to do that yet. So don't be the first. So, before we kick things off, Craig, I think you're going to play a clip of something, right?
I'm going to play a good portion of this song so that people can actually hear what it is before we start jumping into dissecting the AL1. You theoretically should see my Pro Tools screen, yes?
We do, and if you want to bring AL1 up as well.
Do you think that's a good idea?
Probably, yeah. We'll make sure that Andrew and your mics are muted, and if you want to play a little bit of this, you can bypass in and out what's going on, and then after you're done, we'll toss it over to Andrew, I believe, and he's gonna
so
technical details.
First of all, this is a very old mix that I substituted what used to be here for the AL1, and in doing so, I also had to go and tweak some things in the mix since it was very different sounding, but it's certainly in a place where it will demonstrate what this does very well. I'm going to play from the top through the first hook and a little bit into the second verse before we even bypass, just so you can get an idea what the song is. This is a brother and sister team from Italy. Their last name is Silvani. And from a talent standpoint, they would give the Eilishes a major run for their money. So let's just play a little bit of this.
Why did I let you back in? it's not you, it's him. If it's not him, it's sin. Why can't I breathe without it? Commanding me intense is in my religion. One, take her to the bar, to the show. 3, you let her go before she's lighting up. Let her know that you're going home. 5, you're meeting someone. Always get the red card. Oh, 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 oh. All I wanted, make me honest. I know that you want it, on it, and I got it. Cleanse my body, be my guide. Don't make me unholy, baby. Don't make me unholy. I'm reading at 3 a.m. Ask me if I'm up, teach me Exodus, and I kneel down to praise him. He can do no wrong, I got a confession. 6, drop a little hint, slide it in to get to 7. Sipping on the blood, and I ate the body of him. That is purgatory, then is where you'll find me. Oh, 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 oh. All I wanted, make me honest. I know that you want it, on it, and I got it. Cleanse my body, be my guide. Don't make me unholy, baby. Don't make me unholy.
And I'll unmute you there. Okay. So, yeah, there's Glenn. Hi, Glenn. So that sounded great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
First of all,
back to
fantastic
the,
mix.
thank you. Let's go back to the hook, and I'm just going to bypass in and out because what I don't think you noticed or heard in that mix with this limiter is the lack of dynamics. But when I go in and bypass this and you hear how much it's doing, it's going to be shocking. So let's just do that, shall we?
We shall. Yeah.
Get the red card. Oh, 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 oh. Make me honest. I know that you want it, on it, and I got it. Cleanse my body, be my guide. Don't make me unholy, baby. Don't make me unholy.
That's doing a lot, my friends, and yet it does not sound overly compressed or overly limited, I should say, and still has dynamics and is still big. And the previous limiter that was on here when I originally did this mix years ago doesn't sound anything like that. And which is why I say, let's just stop this now and everyone buy it because we're done.
So somebody's asking if you could demo that again. And I understand we're getting a little bit of dropout here and there, so that might be a processing thing on Craig's machine here. But
Do you need me to
try that.
Sessionwire again?
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay. Here come the questions. Yeah. So we're gonna get Craig to demo this again, and maybe this time you can show the gain reduction that's being done as well. I know somebody was asking about how much gain reduction is being done.
Make me honest. I know that you want it, on it, and I got it. Cleanse my body, be my guide. Don't make me unholy, baby. Don't make me unholy. I'm praying for ya. I've got no control. Take my flesh and blood and bone. I tried to serve ya. It's in the scripture. I bow to you, repent me for all my crimes. I am a sinner, a mortal father. That's what I call you. My body is your sacrifice. All I wanted makes me honest. I know that you want it.
Yeah, so we're kind
All I
of
can
hearing
say,
some.
I'm going to interrupt. If everyone could be in this room hearing this,
Well, that's what we're gonna say. So there's a little bit of kind of cutting in and out, and this wasn't happening when we tested this earlier, so everybody knows. Craig touched his computer and it static electricity shorted everything out. We had to restart earlier his whole system. So I wonder.
do you want me to quit Pro Tools and
Yeah, I think that would be worth trying for sure.
In the meantime, I could fill that space with maybe talking a little bit about the philosophy of the AL1.
Yes, I think we can jump to that. We can jump into Andrew. You can talk about the philosophy, you know, why you developed it, what makes it different, and also your alpha program too. I think is
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the important place to start at is first and foremost, I made it for myself. I have really nice analog gear, and I'm obviously, as an audio engineer, I'm constantly chasing a better sound, and I've always felt that limiters almost entirely have been a choice of how much compromise or what do I want to compromise in order to get competitive loudness. I've never been like, oh my God, this limiter actually makes things sound more musical. It's just been like, oh, this limiter takes away less bass. This one does that. Let me just make a trade-off here. So I have over 20 years of experience in software, over 20 years of experience in music, and I've always been a little hesitant to get into building a plugin because my entrepreneurial sort of spirit would instantly want to go crazy with it and come out with EQs and all kinds of stuff. So I knew it would be an endeavor. I ended up building it, and I had a theory. My theory was that look-ahead limiting is the problem. The issue with look-ahead limiting, there's actually a research paper we're writing a blog on this about, is that it starts to blunt transients, and that groove that you feel in music, the thing that we like about dynamics. The human ear and brain are extremely powerful, and this very subtle like reduction of all of the information preceding the transient, preceding the peak, that's what gives music its groove. And so the idea was, how can we have a limiter that does not depend on look ahead, but still performs in a way that look ahead does, in the sense that it has a strong ceiling. If anyone has ever had a analog limiter, and up until, you know, a certain company came out with their look ahead analog limiter, we didn't have this concept. So having a brick wall was something foreign to the analog world. You just had to basically make the limiters operate fast. And that is what I did in the digital realm. And so the whole philosophy is, again, how do we just get rid of look ahead? And I think the effects have just trickled down to making the AL1, every aspect of it, better, simply because we're not depending on look ahead, in my opinion. So I made it for myself. I made it with this theory of, we don't need look ahead. I want to preserve groove. And I mean, I think any successful business person or any successful person can chalk a lot of their success up to luck. I mean, I had a theory, I implemented it, could have sounded bad, but largely it just sounds good. And I ran with it and I started tuning it. There's so many different parameters within the AL1 that have been tuned by ear, everything from country to dance to R&B. I think this is another place where this is kind of differentiated. I've developed this for over a year on actual material, not plug-in doctor and sine waves, right? We could chase plug-in doctor and sine waves all day long, but unless it's been battle tested and tuned against music, I think that that's kind of I just don't resonate with that approach. So all that being said, to your point, Brandon, about our alpha program, the AL1 was developed completely out in the open. So not only was it me testing it, but it was Craig testing it. I mean, Craig, how long have you been using the AL1? We just released it officially 6 weeks ago.
long before that at this point.
Yeah, it was last year sometime, like late summer maybe. I don't even remember. But anyways, the point is we've developed it out in the open, along with anyone was invited to use it. Craig happened to get it, and he's provided excellent feedback. And we've duplicated that process. And there's, it's just basically part of our company's identity. We want to develop these things out in the open for the community to help us make this happen. And so we got 3 EQs, we got a compressor, and we got a soft clipper in the alpha program. The alpha program is available if you have a perpetual license, or if you're at least 50% through your rent to own. Not quite the same as previously where everyone could have access to it, but there's a reason. It got a little unwieldy trying to manage a really big alpha program. So we really want to get people that are serious and like believers in us to have that ability to give us feedback.
Amazing. I love it. Now that Craig, you're back up here, do you want to try playing this again and see if that resolved this issue? And people, just really quick, people were asking about turning Unity on as well, so we could hear the signal gain matched as well.
Sure, but let's make sure we're cool here first.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat, that's better here. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely better. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
That's not due to Sessionwire. That's due to my zapping my computer, just so anyone who's wondering. Denver is not known for its nice, humid climate. All right. let me play with Unity gain going in and out, shall we?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
Go to the last book where it really gets big.
Actually, just this time, we've heard it a lot without Unity gain on, and the volume difference is quite drastic. So maybe just leave Unity on the whole time when you're in and out. Then if you can bypass it. But, yeah, throw Unity back on, but bypass the plugin entirely. Yeah. Everybody in the chat? Yeah, great. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I think most people just want to hear it with Unity in the entire time so they can hear exactly what it's doing. Obviously, there's about 6.5 dB of extra volume being added through this, right? So it's quite a bit.
Well, I have my opinion about leaving Unity gain on. It's not really telling you what you need to know. Bypassing in and out is throughout the course of this is telling you what you need to know, because no one's delivering a mix to mastering or delivering a mastering to a client with Unity gain on. So I understand why people want to hear it, but bypassing in and out of it makes more sense than leaving it on the entire time, because it's not telling you anything.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think people just want to hear, the difference that it's making. That's all. I think we're going to be doing some more demoing in a few more minutes as well. Craig's got a couple more sources he's going to try it on.
Well, let's just do that quickly. So it came up in a recent conversation with the guys that it's not only good on just mix bus or mastering. It actually works phenomenally well on individual sources. This mix originally did not have a limiter on this bass track, which I'm going to solo, and it's here a little bit. It doesn't have anywhere the same amount of gain or limiting going, but let's just play this bass track.
Oops, I'll unmute you there.
Sorry. In this case, what you're hearing here is it's bringing the bass alive in a way that there's also an EQ on this plugin. Those inserts are hidden. The only other thing on this bass track is an EQ, and it's bringing this bass alive in a way that had never been alive before. And it isn't even so much about the limiting, although it is adding a little bit of gain that's been compensated for by turning the bass down within the mix itself. But nothing else was making it come alive like that. In addition to that, I took the chorus vocal. Well, you know what? Let's listen to this real quick, and we can listen to it at Unity if you like.
I know that you want it, and I got it. Cleanse my body, be my guide. Don't make me unholy, baby. Be unholy.
Obviously, this bass is to create a buzzy sound. It's not so much the low end. The low end is all coming from the 808 that's in the track. That's sort of acting like a bass as well. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, I have this on a vocal, which since, I don't know, as of a week or two ago, I started putting this on a number of different vocals, which seems weird to put I think it seems weird to put a limiter on a vocal. However, I just mixed a track for a singer-songwriter artist where the AL-1 is on it. And the point of this particular track, which is very much a pop singer-songwriter thing with a bunch of acoustic instruments and some programming as well, is the vocal actually does need to just kind of sit evenly from the track, and then the automation rides kind of add the dynamics, as opposed to a track like this where it's sung with a bunch of purposeful dynamics. The AL-1 has done a better job than using two compressors in series, which I usually do, small amounts in two different compressors to kind of even it out, as opposed to large amount in one compressor, which doesn't work well. And I substituted one of the compressors with the AL-1, and the difference in having a vocal that sounds like the track's already been mastered, because anyone who's done a mix and the vocal's a little all over the place, then you have it mastered and feels like it's sitting right there. This is doing that within the mix, so I don't have to do as much riding. I always do fader rides on vocals, period. But let's just solo this. It's in the hooks.
All I wanted, make me honest. I know that you want it all.
Pause for a second. You're kind of glitching out again. I wonder if we'll jump over to Andrew again for a second, but just check your activity monitor to see if there's something hogging a bunch of your CPU power, or if like there's a backup service running or something like that.
The only other thing that's running on my computer is the browser, so that I can't get rid of.
No, it seems like Pro Tools might need a restart again.
In the meantime, there were some questions. If you want me to go over those,
yes, I think so. Yeah, I mainly I think it's like explaining what the parameters do.
Yeah,
in your own words.
Sure.
You know.
Let me share my screen, and I will do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So I think the best place to start is the workflow that we kind of suggest by the layout, and that is this left to right, top down, kind of like reading a book if you're from a country where you read a book from left to right, top down. We made the input knob the biggest one because why do we want a limiter? We want stuff to be loud. So we want this to be the first knob It's the biggest knob. It's on the left. We want you to grab that and turn it up to the loudness level that you want. And then there's, you know, the obvious output and unity. So this section is, I would argue, relatively straightforward, other than the fact that there is no threshold that you can adjust. The threshold is fixed at 0 dBFS. So if you want to go anything underneath that, you just basically have this raw output gain that's after all processing, and you turn it down. This is where the real fun part is. Arguably, the rest of the entire plugin is fun, but as far as limiting action goes, and Brandon, I can't see questions, so if anything pops up in particular, or you need me to pause, just feel free to interrupt me.
Sure, I'm watching. I think the walkthrough of things would be good, and then we can circle back.
Cool. Yeah. So mode. What is mode? Okay, when you're talking about gain reduction, there has to be something. Well, at least, you know, in the digital realm, and for the purposes of what this limiter is trying to solve, which is a sort of brick wall, if you will, but it's not a brick wall by design. It just behaves like one. There has to be some trajectory that the limiter is kind of wanting to follow, right? And then there needs to be something that enforces how that trajectory is applied. You don't just say, take this sample, turn it down, take that sample, turn it down. Oh, everything's under 0 dBFS. You get discontinuity. So you need things to be smoothed out. You need to give kind of like a path for the limiter to follow. And then you say, okay, now here's the actual law that goes and applies that. And some are just really basic, you know, digital algorithms. This one applies some principles found in physics. This first mode here is what's called a slew jerk limiter. Basically, it's like how fast can things move, and jerk is different than slew. But how fast can something move? How fast is this limiter able to respond? And it follows a very specific sort of internal physics model that says, okay, we know that we need to do this much gain reduction, but my physics model only allows me to move in this certain way. And that way could be very subtly, maybe a little more rounded, maybe a little more sharp. Maybe it does a little bit more than maybe mode 2. Speaking of mode 2, this is what's called a critically damped system. The best analogy, and I'm getting super nerdy here, and I have my team gets on me all the time that maybe I get too technical. So feel free to tell me to move on. But basically, a critically damped system, the best analogy that I can come up with is your shocks on a car. You have a speed bump, you hit a speed bump, and if you have an overly damped system, your car is going to bottom out, and it's going to take a while for it to get back up to its quote-unquote normal height. If you have a overly damped system, you hit a bump, and it's springy. If you have a perfectly damped system, you go over that bump, and you don't even feel it. This is the model that people are trying to reach when it comes to hydraulics and suspensions. This is trying to apply critically damped sort of modeling to the actual gain reduction that's happening. Mode 3 is a hybrid of the two. So we're using some slew jerk methodologies and some critically damped methodologies and kind of mishmashing them so that you get a character. And musically, what does this mean? What I find is that mode 1 is a bit more, it's more transparent, but it also has the tendency to be a bit more aggressive if you push it hard. So, and that aggression could come out as a distortion, and there are cases where the AL1 distorts. Obviously, everything can distort. But this is the mode that I'm typically in. I like the transparency and the openness of it. And of course, you could push it too far. Mode 2 is a bit more smooth, I would say. It's a bit more, it absorbs really harsh transitions from transients better than mode 1. But you lose maybe a little bit of transient response. And then mode 3, it's somewhere in the middle between the two, I would say. This envelope, what it is, it plays on mode. So envelope is the thing that kind of sets the flavoring of this trajectory. As I was talking about earlier, there's this trajectory that we're going to try to follow, and then something has to go and apply that trajectory. Mode 1 is applying it. Envelope is kind of like your road. What's the actual path we need to take to get from A to B? And these are just mathematical functions that The second one is what's called a smooth step function, which is typical for a limiter, and it sounds kind of like what it sounds like. What I find is that mode 1, again, this is the default, and you can see kind of what I'm going after as the designer, is most open, most transparent, most invisible. Mode 1 is going to preserve as much of those transients as possible. Mode 2 still does a very good job of preserving transients, but the shape just naturally tends to push forward vocals and snares and kicks just ever so slightly, so that you can maybe use it as a stylistic thing, or maybe it smooth things out. So you have these two things that kind of play on each other, right? And then you have attack and release. And attack and release, we all know what attack and release is, but the AL1 is maybe slightly different than other things. I don't know if anyone else does this, but the idea is the A for in AL1 stands for adaptive. I'm trying to make it smart, but I have never really been a fan of fully program dependent designs, because sometimes I kind of want to like put things in places where it doesn't want to go. So the idea behind our attack and release system is that you tell the AL1, I want you to live within this world of attack and release, but your program dependency is allowed to move between what your opinion is and what I'm kind of like nudging you towards. So it's this sort of quasi program dependent. It's this hybrid of user controlled and program dependent algorithm, if you will. So that distinguishes, that differentiates attack and release from anything else that I might be aware of out there in the world. And then they have this idea of window. Someone asked earlier, is it not look ahead? It is truly not look ahead, but we still do some analysis, to some statistical analysis, to kind of dictate and figure out that program dependent side of the AL1. But it's not look ahead in the sense that we're trying to turn things down ahead of the transient. That's the real problem that I have with look ahead limiting. I'm okay with some latency, trying to understand what's coming in the future, but it's the application of that information that I think is the problem, and where we've diverted from traditional way of thinking about limiting. This window, what it does is it basically gives the limiter more context. It says, okay, your analysis of the signal, which influences everything about the limiter, is allowed to be wider. And so musically, what this means is that when your window is at 0%, again, you're going, it's the least amount of limiting that we can possibly apply to reach the goal of 0 dBFS. The problem with that is that sometimes that can distort. So the idea behind window is that, okay, we got distortion in this one part, maybe a piano solo comes in. Piano is notorious for being hard to limit. You could just ride this and just say, okay, distortion's gone. Of course, nothing's perfect, and you may run into cases where the window isn't working, but this is, we're always trying to improve our products. But that's the idea behind this whole section. This is kind of our shape section, and maybe I'll pause for a moment because I've been yelling at, kind of rambling at this point.
So yeah, there's a few questions here that we can address. Somebody was asking if the slew jerk model frequency, is it frequency dependent in any way, or
no? The design that my sort of design philosophy is everything time based, because it just feels more coherent to me. Once you start getting into frequency based or like spectrum based types of things, I'm not personally, and this is not to say that this doesn't work. I'm a big fan in just finding your way of doing things, and in a lot of ways, the products that I'm designing are embedding my belief system. So I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm not a fan particularly of multiband and anything that kind of messes with the spectrum.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah,
Because I will be the first one to agree that anything mix bus related that is dynamically driven, again, should be driven further up the chain and not on the mix bus.
Totally. I agree 100%, especially if you have that option, as the person mixing it, Craig. Like, fixing that at the mix bus seems crazy to me. So anyways, the design is definitely, it's just 100% time domain. There is no frequency dependent stuff going on with the AL1.
Cool. Somebody else asked about the window, what's a good starting point for the window setting?
Again, I mean, I can only talk about my experience. I'm not a fan of prescriptions per se, although you can find things that work in a high percentile fashion. My starting point is the defaults. 1 on everything and 0% on window is kind of my defaults. That's what I like. I do find myself sometimes going up to maybe 10%, but it becomes much more of a stylistic thing. If I do have to use window for distortion, I just raise it up to whatever's needed for that moment and automate it and bring it back down. But my particular flavor is
smooth. The further you drive it up, the smoother the mix gets sounding. So it's obviously genre related. If you're doing, a track like this, you want the punch and the transients to obviously push through. So
right.
Which is why it's down where it is on my mix. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm trying to insert some things.
I'm trying to fill space, Craig. So if we want to come back to link and optimize, or I finish it, it's up to you guys or whatever.
I think we can kind of keep going through this. There's lots of questions kind of related to this. Somebody was asking about how Craig is using, something on the mix bus, if you're mixing into it the entire time, or if you finish it with a limiter.
I'm happy to share that. To me, it makes absolutely no sense to not do top-down mixing. In other words, anything that's in place, dynamically speaking, needs to be in the mix from the very beginning, because it is impossible to do an entire mix. Mixing and mastering are different things. So let's start with that. It's impossible to do a mix, do all the rides, do everything that needs to be done, then stick a compressor and a limiter on at the very end and expect that your mix is not going to fall apart. So top-down mixing literally means that all of these dynamic plugins are in from the beginning. And then you go, well, how do you know where to set them? And that's an excellent question. And the answer is I've found over the course of all these years of top-down mixing where averages are for all of these plugins. And then these 2 screens that you're seeing over here that are on the top of my console have only my mix bus plugins in. And so I am constantly seeing them. I'm constantly looking at gain reduction. I am frequently adjusting a little bit as I go as to making drastic moves, because I've started from averages that I've built over many, many years. Does that answer the question to any real degree?
Yes, to a great degree. Somebody else was asking about latency, how latent the plugin is. Can you use it during tracking, or is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's only in this version, it's only 1.9 milliseconds. So I mean, that's like 30 times faster than you can blink. So or
awesome.
something thereabouts.
One more question here, and we were just talking about this before, and how there's always improvements being made to the plugin. Somebody says that mode 1 can introduce distortion on certain material, even with just a couple of dBs of reduction.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I will make no claim that this is perfect. And anyone who tries to tell you that it is perfect is either lying, or they've made it so perfect that it's not musical.
Well, Andrew, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because I've never heard it ever. So how hard do you have to push it in order to hear distortion?
I don't know.
I'm also the first to tell you that my goal in mixing is not -7.
Well, I mean, I think there are valid cases where the AL1 is distorting at times where I wish it did not distort. And I find that is when the material is like it's piano usually, but you can usually address that with window. Piano is notorious for being hard to not distort on limiting. The other is when the material just has basically like it's almost sinusoidal. It's just like a sine wave. It's just like an 808 that has no harmonics to it at all. I'm still trying to figure it out, if I'm being honest. We have an alpha, and I've got a solution for this, but why this one in particular? The use cases and the different places in which you can actually use the AL1. It's so broad. It's hard to narrow it down to one specific thing. But
okay, but I'm going to remind you that there's a massive 808 in this track, and it does not distort, period.
That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of bewildered. I really don't, and maybe this is bad to say out loud, but I don't fully know how to be like 100% certain that, oh yeah, it's going to distort on this type of material if these conditions are met. And I think that that's okay, because ultimately I am after a musical limiter, and my sort of philosophy when it comes to mix bus stuff, or I mean, I don't mix anymore. I master, but I turn up the limiter and I get the loudness that I want. And if something's distorting, I figure out why it's distorting, and I go and fix that with another tool. Maybe it's 20 hertz that needs to be rolled off. Maybe I do need to bring out, God forbid, a multiband and like compress this kick that has, you know, there's something wrong downstream, and I try to like fit it into this box. So I personally saw that as a feature, not a bug. And it was like, okay, it forces me to clean things up a little bit more.
Well, excuse my bravado, but I have never once heard 1 ounce of distortion. I've mixed it on every type of material except for metal, because I don't mix metal. And I have never once heard a single sample of distortion anywhere. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if it's mixed properly, you're not going to hear it unless you're going to an extreme level, which you shouldn't be going to anyway, given that it's going to be normalized back down to -14. And stuff that is printed at -6 and then mastered and then normalized back down to -14 will sound a lot worse than something that's mixed at -10 that dips into -9 and then goes back down to -14 when it's
normal. I mean, I have to agree. I think I could understand, you know, we are a premium priced tool. I can understand frustration when distortion does happen, because if you pull out any other limiter, in fact, the AL1 can go probably further than most other limiters. I'm finding when it distorts, the other ones are too. It's just that the flavor of distortion of the AL1s is not particularly ear pleasing, but the other ones aren't perfect. That being said, I think really what it comes down to is something. Look at that as an indication of what do I need to fix downstream. It's not a problem with the limiter, in my humble opinion. I know I'm very biased here, but I think that's
no, but I'm not, and that's just the truth.
There you go.
Let's continue through the walkthrough, the GUI there, and the parameters.
All right, let me share my screen, and now we're on the linking section. So I love our linking section. I haven't seen it done like this anywhere else. And again, I keep talking about how we're differentiated. No one else is doing it. I didn't do these things for the sake of being different. I did them to solve a musical problem. And the problem I have always had with linking is that I love what it does to the center channel. Absolutely love how it tightens it up. But I absolutely just as much hate at what it does to the sides. So much so that I almost avoided linking entirely. I only really did it when, and it was rare, when I felt like it was, you know, again, it's a choice of compromise. I felt like getting that center channel stronger, tighter was better than losing all that stuff I'm getting in the sides. So the idea behind this linking system is it's completely correlation based, and it's variable moment by moment. So it's not like, okay, left channel did 1 decibel and we're at 100% linking, so right channel does 1 decibel. The way that this works is you set a threshold. You say, when this correlation, would it be useful? I think it's really useful to kind of like show what it looks like. There's a reason why we have a meter here, so I'll probably play something if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Everybody heard that? Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. I got you muted here. Oh.
y me pregunta, bebé, ¿te molestó? Le dije no pa' no perderte, guardo mi lengua. Llévalo pa'l core.
So hopefully, am I unmuted? Sorry, I
You
can't.
are. Yep, you're unmuted. Yep.
Hopefully, hopefully you all were able to hear that. But with linking on, the center channel just became tighter. But if you saw how the meter was moving when the center so let me step back. What is correlation? Correlation is how much similarity there is in the left and right signal. What is that? That's your mono signal. But it's you can get a measurement of that on a sample by sample basis, on a momentary basis. How correlated, how much mono signal is dominating what I'm hearing right now. And so what happens is if you notice, threshold goes from -1 to +1, and you all have a meter that shows, it's this little thing that bounces from -1 to +1, and there's a 0 in the middle, obviously. That is your correlation meter. But your correlation meter is saying how dominant the mono signal is, and you can tell the limiter when the correlation is approaching fully mono. That's when linking starts to kick in. And then furthermore, you can say, but I only want you to do 27% at most and 8% at minimum. And then furthermore, you could say when you're going from max to min, or when you're actually changing, you have a certain path that you have to follow. And 0% is a perfectly linear path. 100% is this sort of S curve that happens. And what you can do is you can really shape that center channel. And it kind of like, as the center channel comes into focus and the mono signal starts to dominate, the linking gets stronger and stronger so the center channel can pop out. But as the center channel goes away, it becomes dual mono. So that's the idea behind linking.
That is crazy. Can you play a little bit longer, like play your sample a little bit longer, and bypass AL1 in and out completely and link in and out completely? So yeah, I'll make sure you're both muted. You're
How
both
about I put it on Unity for now, and then
sure,
you can just do that. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Quizás dicen tus amigas, esta nomás es un turista y no es amor, que no es amor, es una opción, es una opción. Te gusta la canción, puedes negar que llamas al mostrar tu piel y me pregunta, bebé, ¿te molestó? Le dije no pa' no perderte, guardo mi lengua. Llévalo pa'l core. Yo me muerdo la lengua, bebé, muerdo mi lengua.
Amazing. It makes me wish I wasn't listening on my inexpensive headphones.
So if I can add here, if anyone isn't noticing, the linking function obviously has an effect on stereo width. I assume everyone's hearing that. If not, if you want to add to your stereo width, then there's where you're doing it.
Yep.
Somebody's just asking how you're setting the threshold, if you're listening or if you're kind of basing your selection on the meter.
I mean, I think the meter is cool. If anyone was part of the early alpha program, I think we had 0 meters, not even gain reduction. So what I'm trying to say is I'm a big fan of listening first, but link what you're hearing with how you see the meter reacting before you link what you're hearing, like with, okay, I got to chase how this meter looks. It might be a cheat sheet. Don't get me wrong. Everyone has their own way of using it. But really what I'm looking for is, I just want things to pop a little bit more in the center channel, or just feel maybe a little more controlled. And there's 2 ways that I personally go about this, and Craig, feel free to chime in here. The higher your range is, in my experience, between min and max, the more you're going to get that like snappiness in the middle. And you can similarly control that with how strong the slope is. If you want to just kind of like bring out the center channel, but maybe get a little more control on it, I'm finding lately that I'm actually going somewhere around here, like minimum at 0, and then here, and then slope.
Very, very much like every mix I'm doing these days.
Yeah.
And I'm going to chime in and say,
please do.
You can describe the technical side of all of this, and I couldn't care less because I'm only using these.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed too, Andrew, in the manual, that slope knob was previously labeled speed.
Yeah, it was. I mean, my team is like, oh, but, and they're not wrong, but we've tried to take a pretty, if you notice, the nomenclature we're using here is verging, maybe not verging, but it's more on the technical side, because I'm not a fan of limiters that are like, oh, put it in this mode and you got punch, and put it in this mode, it's going to be smooth. Like, not a fan of that. I'm a fan of figuring out how you use a tool and how you can make it work for you to get the smooth that you want. So, yeah, I forgot where I was even going with this, but yeah, all of the nomenclature is very non-technical. It's on the technical side of things.
And it seems like it's changing, which is great. You know, trying to find the ways to describe things in the way that people use it. That's always difficult as a software designer. You know, when you're so inside of a product yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know, trying to explain it so that other people can understand.
It's so hard. In fact, I struggled to write our manual because I was like, isn't it obvious? But it's not obvious.
Well, I'll chime in here with that as well. If
Yeah.
I was a fifth as smart as you, I'd be working at NASA.
Yeah.
I think the people at NASA are massively smarter than me. The only difference is I have this weird blend of musical and technical, and it's just fit for making plugins. But I did study physics at UCSB, but I had to drop out and start a software company to make money. So,
wish I
anyway,
made that decision. Can we continue to the optimize section here?
Yes. Okay.
So before you start that, let me say one thing. The way I look at the optimize section is frankly because I send every single one of my mixes to a mastering engineer. I'm generally not touching it. And now you can explain what it does and why that makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's totally fair. It is very much on the mastering side of the house when it comes to why the feature is around. Obviously, we're trying to get louder. The idea, let me take a step back. Upwards compression. I've had a problem with upwards compression. The upwards compression feels a bit too pumpy, bubbly to me. It doesn't feel like I'm just taking everything that's kind of sitting underneath the transients and lifting them up. And I think that's largely due to the fact of, well, the word compression in it. Compression isn't very fast. And so it takes some time to respond. And so as you get a transient that goes down and we're trying to fill in these gaps between transients, it's just simply not fast enough to respond. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I have an extremely transparent algorithm for applying gain reduction. How could I use that in the inverse to apply gain in the opposite way? But it's not quite as simple as that, obviously. There is an intricate dance that's happening between the gain reduction, the limiting section of the AL1, and the optimization section. The limiting section is actually informing the optimization section, what it's doing so the optimization can get out of the way. And this will become much more apparent in a second, but let me just throw it on. Let me touch briefly on these controls. Makeup gain is an auto makeup gain. Everything about this optimize section is opportunistic. Well, mostly. The idea behind this makeup, this knob, is as the release is on its release curve, because you may choose a release here that holds on maybe, yeah, it sounds really good here, but it's, you know, maybe it's sucking away too much of the life of the groove. The idea is the optimization section is going to inject gain on the release curve of the limiter. As the limiter is doing gain reduction, if it sees opportunity to apply this much makeup gain, it will. If it up to this much, it may apply 0.4, it may apply 1. It's really on a moment by moment basis. But it's just as the limiter is working on gain reduction, we're holding on to the release maybe a little too strongly, and that's cool. But this optimization section kind of just lifts up those transients. So you get a little bit more sustain, a little bit more oomph out of the snares and things like that. So I can show that. Let me turn off lift here. I'll put linking back on and I'll play something. This is straightforward. There is no opportunity. This track in particular is already dense. There's just not a whole lot of opportunity for the AL1 to apply makeup gain here. But if there was, you would see this little blue thing here bouncing up and down. It's gain reduction from the top down, optimization from the bottom up. What we can do, and there's two ways to show off this particular tool. This is called lift. Lift is where makeup gain is kind of operating on the transients, and as the limiter is functioning, lift is operating on the average level, and when the limiter is not working at all. So in between the peaks, let's say. There's one way to use this, which I'll show. I might be turning some stuff on and off here, so forgive me, Brendan, but
all good.
Let me just play a section here. Let me explain real quickly and we can listen, but the idea is this particular section of the song is quieter than the rest of the song. Maybe I want the transition in this particular section where we're going from loud hooks and whatnot. Maybe this section, I want it to be up half a decibel or something to maybe compete with the rest of the song. What you do is you set the threshold at what this says is, when the signal falls below minus 10 dBFS RMS, I want you to apply this much gain opportunistically, up to this much gain. And so we can toggle that on and off here. Push it too far, right? As with any tool. Now, there's another way that we could use this, and if there's any questions, I could pause here for a moment.
Yeah. So somebody just asked, if you could explain how lift and makeup are different. I mean, there's such new concepts. It's a little bit tricky to wrap your head around. Yeah. The simple way of thinking about it is makeup applies on the. This is the most musical way of thinking about it. Makeup applies on the transients, lift applies on the sustain. And that's a very simplified way of looking at it. The slightly more evolved version is makeup applies as the gain reduction is occurring. We'll try to maybe we did too much gain reduction. We'll try to lift it up just a little bit more to get back closer to 0 dBFS. So that's while the limiter is functioning. When the limiter is not functioning, we're going to apply lift. So it's this peaks and valleys. So we're trying to basically make the peaks a little bit higher and bring the valley up more baseline with the peak of the mountain. Really cheesy analogy. Hopefully that clarifies it. Somebody else.
I'm going to pump in here for 1 second and say that if the mix is done correctly, then this is a tool to fix stuff, in my opinion. At the mix level, because to be honest with you, frankly, in my mixes, those dips and sections are done purposely, and I'm not trying to undo that with the limiter at the mix stage.
Yep. Yeah, it's an artistic choice, and I think you have to respect the mix as a master engineer and ask yourself if it was intentional. At other times, it's pretty obvious.
I should have said it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I said it correctly, and I said it
no
selfishly. Sorry.
No, if it's intentional, by all means, leave it. Sometimes it's very obvious that this section just needs to be just feeling the full momentum of the song. This section just needs to be lifted up a little bit more, right? There is an alternative here. The alternative is that we go to a loud section, and this is maybe what people are more used to traditionally. This just says, okay, the threshold is 0 dBFS. Obviously, the signal is going to always be on. The lift is always going to be on. And this is just a simple way of just getting loudness, period. So I'll play it for a second here.
Es la única persona en mi vida, no quiero a nadie más que no seas tú. Ven aquí, deja cantar fuerte. Háblame su mami tu lenguaje. Ven aquí, deja cantar fuerte. Que salga que no sea penosa. Todas las mujeres tienen que soltarse. Todas las mujeres tienen que soltarse. Todas las mujeres tienen que soltarse. Todas las mujeres tienen que soltarse.
You can see it can be used for the purposes of just getting louder, period.
Somebody was asking about the musical notes.
Oh, yeah, we're going further. Okay, someone knows about this special little section here. Okay, so the simple explanation is that the window has obviously, it can only be so wide. And again, trying to think about this limiter and all of its parameters in a musical context, I thought, well, okay, I want the limiter to be able to analyze a really low note. And the lowest note that's probably realistic is C0, which is somewhere around 16.3 hertz. Well below 20 hertz if you consider how big of a jump 20 to 16 is, Anyways, what you're setting here is essentially the whole context of the limiter. You're saying, I want your timing to be tuned to C0, C sharp, D0, whatever it is. But that's kind of like the whole window size that you're given. You're kind of seeing this in other limiters as like look ahead time. Again, this is not a look ahead limiter. I guess there's an analogous thing here with this window, but it's not look ahead in the sense of application of that data. It is just giving you preset things that are musically tuned to timings that are based in musical theory. So I guess, Craig, you and I try to figure out ways to explain this all the time, and we have no idea.
I have one idea.
Okay.
The one idea is that, frankly, as you flip through them, you can hear a significant difference. And I don't mean in a plus or minus way, but you can tune the sound of the limiter based on the key. And if you know what you're looking for, you can find a key in the limiter that makes your mix sound better, or the mastering for that matter. And every mix since this has been introduced, when I get towards the end of the mix, I start at C0 because you got to know where to start somewhere. But at that point, then I'm just flipping through them, and one or two of them will jump out and like, oh, well, that's better. It just sounds better. And some sound, okay, that's not as good as what I already had. And again, it really frankly boils down to using your ears. And does one sound better? And then the question goes, well, if one sounds better, does that mean you're going backwards and adjusting the mix? And the odd thing is that you aren't, which makes no sense to me. I'm going to admit it, because you feel like if the quality of the mix or the tuning, we're going to use the word tuning of the limiter to the mix, seems like you would have to go in and start making all kinds of adjustments to the mix. And for whatever reason that I cannot explain, you don't.
This is the analogy that I like to use. Basically, two people are telling the same story and they're being completely honest about it, but they're saying it in their own words. There's really nothing that you could say is wrong about it. It's just a different way of presenting the same information. And you just got to figure out, do I like the way that this one sounds or this one sounds? And really, I think that that's my mission with Naturl Audio, is to get people to stop looking at analyzers and LUFs and this and that. Just turn off all your lights, turn off your your screen and just listen. That's all you got to do. I know it's probably easier than said when you're just getting started, but keep that in the back of your mind as you're going through these things. So to your point, Craig, this is just one of those things where it's just, yeah, I threw it in there because my theory was if I tune everything around musical timings, it'll be cool, and it'll sound good. And then I added this, okay, well, what if we just allow people to change that? Because originally it was just at C0. And we can hear what that sounds like if people want.
Sure. We have a couple of
yeah, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, but you can play it too and like cycle through. We have a feature request as well for a button to cycle through them rather than select them in the list.
Yeah. This was a last minute thing, in all honesty. So we were like, oh, do we go pay our designer another $3,000 to redo everything, or do we just put it in this screen?
It worked. It worked. Okay, yeah. Do you want to play a little bit, and then we can address a couple more of these questions here? I see Drew Vespers is in here. We'll get to yours, Drew, because it's a good one. And then there's another one related to this. So yeah, go ahead.
I'll play it right now.
La única personalidad, no quiero nadie más que no seas tú. Aquí deja cantar fuerte, háblame sucio, mami, tú le. La atención que llamas al mostrar tu piel y me preguntas ¿qué te molestó? Le dije no para no perderte, guardo mi lengua. Llévalo pa'l coro.
Wild. So somebody asked, and I think this is what you've tried to explain, and it says it right here in the manual. It's hard to explain what detector timing changes can sound like. Somebody was asking, what does the key have to do with timing of materials?
It's just like, okay, I have to choose a millisecond. I have to choose a timing. I have to give the limiter context. And so the logical answer in my brain was, well, why don't I give it just enough to fit a perfectly full cycle of a particular note instead of it being chosen arbitrarily?
Yeah.
Incidentally, if it makes whoever asked that question feel better, I asked Andrew the same damn thing.
Drew, if anybody doesn't know who Drew Vespers is, go check his stuff out. Drew's in here asking about how you would compare the lift parameter with the gold feature on Schwab Gold Clip.
Good question. I can't answer that question because I don't use Gold Clip. I'm not a big fan of clipping personally. By all means, everyone can use what they want. I couldn't give a fair answer to that question.
Fair enough. Drew says the gold parameter has nothing to do with clipping. So he says, I mean, I'll finish off his kind of question here. There's a little bit more. Gold is not standard upwards compression either, with no time-based envelope modulation artifacts.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not in a position where I can answer that because I couldn't even tell you how it sounds, if I'm being honest with you. So I have no idea. I wish I could answer it, but I just simply can't, to be fair to, Schwab Digital and us.
I like Ryan and I use Gold Clip, but I don't and would never use it on a mix bus because I'd still go up the chain and put it on the things that need it. If that helps anybody, it's just not something in the genres of music that I mix makes sense to put a clipper on my mix bus. I don't know if that helps anybody or not, but.
Well, Mario just asked a good question, and it is a very good question because it's related. It's kind of an example of the AL1 not being brick wall limiting. And I eventually want to fix this, and I have in the alpha. But he asked me, you said, when you push it, sometimes you see the meter starts to hit red with the AL1. And there's two cases where that can be true. One, this particular version of the AL1 that I'm showing is not a true peak limiter. So if your meter is set to true peak, you very well could see true peaks. We have a future version that has true peak limiting. The alternative is that it is sample peak limiting. But again, this is not a brick wall limiter. And so there are cases where you will get 0.0, it's the most that I've seen is like 0.08 overs, but the DAW registers that as 0.1, it does some rounding. So that's just kind of like a evidence, if you will, of the claim of this not being brick wall. It just has overs naturally because it didn't catch it fast enough. It's really as simple as that. So the recommendation for now is to just compensate with the output knob. It's fixed in a alpha version. People really wanted a tight ceiling, understandable. You could also get back to the old, I'm going off on alpha stuff now. But yes, that is the answer.
Yeah, so somebody asked, what's the reason for a default setting on the output at minus 0.1?
Exactly for that reason.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, okay, again, everything about the AL1, it's highly technical, but it's also putting music as a priority. That's my whole design philosophy. Is I have the technical skills, but I want to apply it in a musical way. And the simple answer to, I get these plus 0.1 overs. Yes. So we set the default to minus 0.1. Just being fully transparent here. I have nothing to hide. We're trying to always evolve and make this thing better, but that's why.
Awesome. And just to circle back to the gold parameter on the gold clipper, it's the parameter is not a clipping parameter. We just can't compare the two. I think what you're saying, Andrew, is you don't. Yeah,
I can't give my personal opinion on it because I don't know how it's designed. I don't know how it sounds. I mean, I would be happy to do a follow-up and sort of, I could only imagine how it's different. I could tell you musically how it would be different, but I just have no reference because I don't use it, so I don't know.
I think I'll connect you with Drew at some point. He's if you don't know Drew, he runs Warp Academy. For everybody, go check out Warp Academy.
Okay, yeah, we'd love to chat.
Yeah. So Quincy's asking, so you suggest using an additional true peak limiter after, or it works as a last plugin in master chain?
I have my strong opinions about true peak. So I'm not going to give a flat answer to this to say, yes, you should always do that. If you like the way that true peak sounds, great. Yes, use a true peak limiter after this. My opinion, and it's changing, in all honesty, as I'm developing true peak in the AL1. I've never loved true peak limiting, ever. There's not a single true peak limiter out there that I truly enjoy. I'm starting to learn that I don't really like look ahead limiting, and true peak only exacerbates the effects of what I don't like about look ahead. So I'm designing a true peak limiting algorithm within the AL1 that, I mean, Craig has used it. I think it's the first time he and I both.
I think it's in the mix I'm playing.
Yeah,
it is. And I will tell you that even the alpha version of that you have right now is the only time I've ever turned true peak on any limiter ever.
Yep. I mean, I'm obviously super biased here, but I'm
not. So
yeah, exactly.
Somebody, Tim's asking about the window feature. It says in the manual to start at 30%, but it's set at 0 here. I think you'd kind of messed around with it while you were playing a little bit, but what's the kind of standard?
Yeah, I mean, we wrote that manual. I do have a problem with that being in the manual. We'll probably fix that. In my opinion, the defaults are where you should start. But again, that's my opinion. I would say spend time with the window. And then if you find yourself gravitating towards 10% almost all the time, make that your standard in your template.
Cool. Craig, how is your mastering engineer reacting or working with you different since you started using AL-1?
They don't know, so there's nothing to be discussed. The bottom line, and I'm going to say this again, is the end result of whatever tools I'm using are to get the best possible mix. And this just happens to be doing a better job than what I was previously using. And it's that simple, which is why I said at the beginning is we don't even need to do this. It's just better.
And I would say, Craig, if there is a limiter that beats it, I wouldn't be mad at you, because I think ultimately plugin companies and people in the industry, we need to try to push things forward instead of being angry.
Well,
at that, you know,
I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'm assuming that people can probably guess the limiter I've been using for years and years and years. And it was easily the best one for our mix bus before this time. And don't type it in there.
Yeah.
What's funny was when we were discussing doing this thing, there was a brief discussion about A being the 2, and it's so dramatic, and it's something that sounded amazing until I A beat it with this, and it's like, oh my, are you serious? I need to go back and redo every mix I've ever done.
Sorry, 1 second. Just responding to somebody here. There's a couple of things here that we need to cover really quick. I was going to say that the thing that I appreciate about AL1 is that it's different. There's new parameters and new ways at looking at how limiting interacts with source material. It's not like another reproduction of a famous like analog type compressor limiter, or kind of a regurgitation of, you know, ideas that are already out there.
Yeah, actually our company motto is evolution, not emulation. And I'm all for, you know, let's emulate the things that we don't have in existence yet. And I'm all for good emulations, and there's a place for that. My own mission, my personal mission, is to just simply get the sound that I want out somewhere, and it's just going to take unique designs to do so. So everything, even from the EQs that we have coming up, even though I'm using physics modeling, I'm literally building circuits digitally, but they're my circuits. I'm building them. I'm not going and, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's ideas about emulation. It's just our personal mission is to really try to do what all of the great designers did back in the day. They simply made the stuff that didn't exist, and they tuned it to sound the way that they wanted it to sound, and that's what made them great. I'm not after greatness here. I'm just after a better sound. That's simply what I'm after, and I think it's going to take us becoming creative again when it comes to designing tools, not regurgitating well-known digital algorithms with a very simple little tweak here and there, or let's expose this parameter and it's different. This is a fundamental shift in like, okay, I want to rethink everything for the purposes of trying to get the sound that I want.
Another feature request. Will internal preset storing be in the new update?
Yes, it will.
Awesome. There you go.
We're not a fan of like, yeah, use this one. It's going to be loud and punchy. Like, we're not going to do that, but we will give you the ability to do your own presets and come up with your own ways, and maybe even ways to share it with other people.
Amazing. So Drew has a couple more questions here. We're getting really technical, and I'm sure once I connect you guys, you'll hit it off, and you can dig into all of the finer details.
Yeah.
He wants to know a little bit about handling control signal smoothing, and gave a couple of examples in there. Andrew, I think you're reading them right now.
Using RMS, LPS style. No, I'm not using any of those. I'm using physics models to, well, I guess you could argue that critical, yeah, they are smoothing of sorts, but not probably your typical ones. These are just physics models that I'm using essentially, and nothing frequency specific like the Hilbert detector. No, I actually did play around with Hilbert detector, and it did something. The problem with Hilbert detector is it starts to get this ripple response at both ends of, anyways, I'm getting super nerdy here. I tried Hilbert, and it just didn't quite work out for me to my taste, but I didn't. Yeah, I'm not using anything that you mentioned in particular. And I'm looking over my camera to see the comments. So if you guys see me looking weird, that's why.
I've
Oh, it's
never
all
been
good.
happier that I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, it's interesting because when you like, I have a physics background as well. I did a Bachelor of Science in Physics and Math and Computer Science, and when you start talking about the physical models that you're using to modify signal, that's really interesting to me. So I think you need to do like a YouTube series on that.
I would, if someone could come here and like tell me, all right, we're ready for you to talk, go and do that, then I would do it. But if I had to go and like set up the camera and all this stuff, I have so much going on, but I would love to do it.
Okay, well, we'll talk. Well, maybe we can maybe do that via Sessionwire Presents. That could be really cool. What are your thoughts on serial limiting? Do you find it useful in your workflow?
I'll let Craig answer that maybe first, and then I'll answer second.
No. There's a one-word answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer.
There's other tools. If volume is the goal with serial limiting, there's other tools that you can use that are not two limiters in a row that can push your. I'd sooner use two compressors in series than I would two limiters in series to get a little extra volume. And also, I've used on the mix bus very infrequently two compressors in a row where one compressor is getting a sound and the other compressor is controlling dynamics. Mm-hmm. And the total amount of dynamics that you will ever see on a mix bus is probably not more than a dB, or certainly not more than a dB and a half, and usually less than a dB. So again, for the 100th time, if something needs more dynamic control, it's happening on the thing that's causing the problem way up the chain and not being done. If everyone looked at my mix bus, they'd go, there doesn't look like there's anything going on, except at the limiter where I'm adding 6 dB.
Yep. I mean, I agree from a mastering point of view. This is I know great mastering engineers that actually do serial limiting. I personally don't. I mean, it's really just as simple as that. I am a bit of a minimalist at heart as a person. I tell my wife all the time that I could live in a room with a bed and a laptop and everything that I need for music, and I would be happy for the rest of my life. Well, of course, with my kids and whatnot, but that's not very practical for them. But I try to keep, like, what's the least amount that I could do for the most bang for my buck to get to the same point. And I've never found
that's true with mixing as well. I get sessions from people where there's 9, 10 plugins on every single track, and you remove them all, and suddenly there's the song.
Right.
Always the less is more. Always.
Yep. It's just about making the right decisions. And in my experience, and what I like to do personally, I only, and of course this is gonna come off super biased, I only trust the AL-1 right now because I know all the other ones are using look ahead, and I think look ahead is a problem.
Amazing. Okay, so we're at 90 minutes here. This has been fantastic. Thank you everybody for kind of dealing with some of the things that kind of happened earlier. And again,
that seems to be on my fault, my side, after I zapped my computer.
Yeah, so we had a test right before, the link became live. Everything was working great, and then there's a static shock that kind of like literally a static shock. So I see there's still more questions and things coming in. Top down. Oh, somebody's asking about top down mixing with you, Craig. So you can go check out Craig's website, and he has this thing called, Craig,
one-on-one sessions, which gives you 90 minutes of presenting a mix. I listen to it in advance, take notes, and we could talk about whatever you want to talk about. Yes, it costs a little bit of money because my time is money, but if you wanted that, but I can very quickly answer this question for everybody without going on.
Yeah, I was referring to in session as well, which you should definitely be, but also just connect one-on-one with Craig.
Yeah, there's both. But very quickly, I think I somewhat answered this at the beginning. I get a very quick static rough mix with everything in with no plugins, leaving about 6 dB of headroom. Because as you saw from my limiter there was about 6 dB of added gain. So I already know that my very quick rough mix is going to be at least 6 dB of headroom. That's just how I get to the average. And then the mixer, the limiter, the compressor at that level is engaged. It's not doing anything dynamically because it's not being hit hard enough. The limiter is already at 6 dB. It's where I generally start. And as I'm building the mix, I'm constantly, those meters on my console are not an Avid thing. They just happen to be the same size and attached to my console. And all of my Mix Plus plugins are sitting there as I'm watching the entire mix. So I never have to go back and forth to see if I'm screwing something up from a gain structure point of view. It's right in front of me all the time. So again, I start with this rough mix, leaving a ton of headroom, build the mix slowly. I'm constantly looking at these averages and adjusting in tiny little bits as I go. I will also tell you that when I get through the instrumental part of my mix, vocals are not in. I build mixes one element at a time, which I know there's lots of philosophy about whether or not that should be done. I do. And then I'm making little adjustments as everything kind of goes along. And I'm just watching the entire time. Well, what I was about to say, when the instrumental portion is done before vocal gets added, there is a unpleasant portion of my life that goes back and starts demoing a couple different compressors, which spends an hour of my time trying to make that decision, which is brutal. Then the same thing happens when the vocals are done and before I start doing a ton of rides, that same procedure of demoing a couple different things on my mix bus, which is already minimal. It's usually just between 2 compressors. And that's the process. It's painful. I'm not going to lie. Back in the analog days where you knew what piece of gear you were using, it was a Allen Smart compressor, which was a copy of the SSL. There were none of these decisions ever had to be made. Now mixes take longer than ever because you have 10 different choices you have to make throughout the entire course of the mix, and it's just painful. Now I have one less choice to make for a limiter on a mix bus. So happy about that.
So listen, we've got a couple of things that we need to do here. We discussed giving a discount to everybody that attended the stream, correct, Andrew?
Yes, I'm just checking to see if we have a giveaway even. I don't know. The guys, like I said, I'm just here to build cool stuff. I'll ask them.
How about this? If there is a giveaway, one lucky person that attended this will get that via email. We'll say that. There is a discount though, and everybody that attended will get a discount.
We're giving one away. I just got confirmation.
Great.
One.
Okay, giving one away. Do we want to do that right now?
How do we do that?
Well, there's a couple ways that we can do this. We could have a little bit of a competition if we want to do this. Andrew has a piece of audio in his. We're going to try this. We talked about this the other day, Andrew. We're going to try this and see if this works. Andrew has a piece of audio in his timeline. He's going to turn off every feature in AL1. So it's all just not doing anything except for one. And he's going to take it to its minimum and its maximum effectiveness. And the first person to say in the comments what parameter he's adjusting wins a free AL1.
I think we should make me do it. And if I guess wrong, they take it away.
We can do that anyways. I mean,
yeah.
So, okay, we haven't started yet. So this is actually going to be like a live demo. So Andrew's not going to share his screen.
People are already.
I know they're already going. We haven't done it yet. So he's going to play the audio and he's going to enable and disable AL1. And, you know, Andrew, I'm going to mute you so you can go like thumbs up for on, thumbs down for off if you want. And the first person to guess which parameter is at full max will win AL1.
Okay.
That sound good? Does that make sense, everybody? Yes. I'm just going to say yes.
Bypass.
Yeah.
Yeah, bypass. All right. Actually, that would be a great one.
That's like the Lee Sklar knob that he has on his bass that does nothing, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Whenever you're ready.
La atención que llamas al mostrar tu piel y me pregunta, bebé, ¿te molestó? Le dije no pa' no perderla, guardo mi lengua. Llévalo pa'l cora. Yo me muerdo la lengua, bebé, muerdo mi lengua.
Okay, so people just spam in the chat. I should have known that was going to happen. Okay, I got to scroll all the way back up. Okay, tell us what
It was Link.
I would have got it right. Thank God.
Nice. Okay, the person. Oh, Viva C was the person that said it first.
All right, Viva C.
So,
we'll just need their information. I don't know how you get that, but send it to us. We'll send it out.
Yeah. So actually, just before the end, so Viva, in the chat, if you can DM, you can select somebody to direct message. You can select one of us. You can either, both. Just send us your email address there. Everybody else, since you attended, we're just going to get them to email Andrew, one of us, to get the discount code. I think that's the best way to do it. You're going to email.
Yeah.
Do you want them to email us?
Whatever. This is my first time doing this. You tell me whatever you think makes the most sense, and we're happy to comply with that.
Is there like a generic email address that you have?
We do. Try hello@naturl.audio.
Okay, so hello@naturl.audio. I'll put it in the chat. You attended this. Send hello@naturl.audio. Sorry, not .com. Let me try that again. hello@naturl.audio. Send them an email.
Just to be clear, this is one thing I hate about our name. Your autocorrect is going to try to spell natural, and it's with the last A. It's NATURL.
Awesome. And
I actually think we might be sending out an email to everybody on the list as well, too.
Yeah, we're gonna send an email out to everybody that RSVP'd, but the people that actually attended. And this is, I can explain this one a little bit. Sessionwire, everybody joined. You can join as a signed-in Sessionwire guest, or you can join without signing up or downloading or doing anything. And that way, we have no information about you. It's very secure. You're kind of anonymous. So if you put some kind of silly guest name in there, that's all we know you by. So if you attended this, send that email, say, hey, I was in the thing today. Give some feedback. We'd love to hear some feedback. Obviously, just watching the comments go by as well. Do you know how much the discount is for, Andrew?
I don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
He's not the marketing guy.
I love this about you, Andrew. He has no idea what's going on.
I'm just here to talk about cool stuff and talk about music. That's it.
Somebody said it's 95% in the chat.
Yeah, $1 million off. There you go.
There you go. We will also send a follow-up to everybody from Sessionwire as well. Keep an eye out for that. We're going to offer everybody 40% off Sessionwire Studio for as long as you keep your subscription active. You get access to Pure Mix Pro with that as well. And you'll also be getting emails about future Sessionwire Presents events that we'll be hosting with all of our partners. And, would love to do another one of these with you, Andrew, for your upcoming plugins.
Absolutely.
It's been fantastic.
There's a new AL-1 coming, and there's 5 other plugins, so we got plenty of opportunity.
And again, I apologize for my zapping my computer, since that seems to have been the problem, which is going to be great. I got a mix to finish today.
Everything has been working great, and then this, it's all good, Craig, though. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and yes, we do plan on uploading the video later. But again, naturl.audio. Go to the website, download the demo, check it out. You really have to get your hands on it and mess around with it. Again, the concepts for these different parameters are so different. Like I mentioned before the stream started, I've messed around with it a little bit, but I am nowhere near figuring out what works best for, for what I try to do anyways.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again, everybody. Thanks for joining.